Welcome. Join me today as we go over lessons 41 to 44. How did it go with the corners exercises? I'm curious because I know some children will just pick this up super fast, and I know for some others it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. No, I want to give you permission. Some of you need to hear this. You are free to adapt the games to suit your children. Some children might need a little bit more help. Maybe you need to uh, rig it a little bit, maybe get some of the cards in a certain order, or work with the children and only work with a few cards. Or maybe you need to point out colors or numbers, or maybe, you know what, you don't even mess with the colors right now. Maybe the goal is just to match numbers. Who cares about the colors? If that's a problem with your children, then don't worry about matching colors. And then as they get used to the game and get used to matching the numbers, then you can come back and have them start doing it with the right colors. So there's a lot of ways you can adapt this game. Feel free to do what you need to do. And this week is going to be kind of a nice little week because we have a review, there's an assessment, and then there's just some, I call a little bit lighter lessons. So let's get started. We're going to see what materials are needed. This week, you'll need the Yellow is the Sun book, your abacus, the worksheets, some tangrams, you need 2 of them, 2 sets, dry erase board, and your tiles. So go ahead, open up to lesson 41, review. The review is concepts that have been learned up until this point. So everything on this page is going to be familiar to you and your child. Just look through, go ahead and look through the different headings and you'll see, very familiar. Don't miss the warm-up. Go ahead and read to them, Yellow is the Sun. It's been a while, unless you're just reading it to them, even though it's not in the lesson. But it's one of those things, kids really enjoy that book. Everything is pretty self-explanatory. We've done this, so there's really no need for me to review over it. I do want to say, though, that I'm going to let you guys decide if you want to do both, the review and the assessment. Some people feel very strongly to do both. Some, if they have children who do really well on the review, like really well, get it done really quick, they have no problem, they don't struggle with anything. It's up to you if you want to go ahead and do the assessment also, because it's pretty much the same thing, just different questions being asked, but the same type of questions. Of course, if you have children who are more like my children and we're pretty average learners, a little bit slow processors, it was always good to do both for us. Or you may find that your child does really well in some areas and struggles in other areas. Maybe in the assessment, you just have them do the areas where they're struggling in. The freedom is yours. You guys decide how you want to do this. Lesson 42 is the assessment. This is the test. There's going to be like 3 main tests. You have this one, you'll have assessment 2, and then at the end of the lessons, like the last 10 lessons, are basically review and assessment. If your child did well, like I said, and when we were talking about the review, you may want to skip, but look through these problems, see if there's anything that looks a little different than in the review that you would like to ask them. One of the examples is shapes. In the review, the shapes, they had to circle shapes. In here, they have to verbally tell you. So kind of make note of that. If you are one of those that feel like, oh, we don't need to do the assessment, just double check and look and see for sure if that's really what you want to do. Or maybe you want to just touch on a few different of the questions. Again, like I said, the freedom is yours. You know your children, you know if they need this review or not, you know if they know this stuff or not. Lesson 43, making rectangles with tangrams. So I pulled out 2 tangrams. I happen to have the red and the blue that are open. You may have different colors. There's also yellow and green. So whichever ones you were sent, you need 2 different groups of them. And this lesson is going to focus more on geometry type learning. I think it's kind of like nice to have like a little bit of break from all the computation type of learning and kind of go a little bit in a different direction. It gives time for all that other learning to kind of have to sink in, to take root. Don't be surprised if when you're talking to your child about parallel lines that you're going to have to review with them again what parallel lines are. You could use your pencils, you can even use your fingers to make sure they understand what parallel is. Maybe point out things in the room that have parallel lines. Like in front of me, I have blinds. So my blinds all have parallel lines. So I'm sure you have plenty of things that you can help remind your child what parallel means. Again, you can look at the lesson. It's pretty self-explanatory. They're just going to use these shapes to make other shapes. So one of the things they're going to do with the 2 triangles is they're going to make a square, which is kind of cool that they get to see how 2 triangles can make a square. You're going to use the large triangles, you'll use those small triangles, and then again, they'll use the tangrams to create rectangles. One of the things it has you ask your child to do at the end is once they make the rectangle, then they're going to copy it on their dry erase board. When they're copying the rectangle, you want them to also put in the lines showing the different shapes that they're using. Just because this just gives them time to really focus on some of the details of what they're doing. And it just reminds them how you can use the 2 triangles and a square to make a rectangle, or you can use a parallelogram and 2 triangles to make a rectangle. Last lesson, lesson 44, continuing patterns. In this lesson, you'll need your tangrams and the tiles, and you're just going to work on making different kinds of patterns. The tiles, you're going to make the ABC patterns. Well, your child is. With the tangrams, it's going to be a little bit different because they're going to use the same color, but they're going to use the small triangle, the medium triangle, the large triangle, so they can see how it's increasing in size. And then you're going to also add in the other color ones. So not only are they increasing in size, but then it's a repeating pattern. Making patterns is something that the children usually really enjoy. Whatever pattern you do, remember you started with the A, and then you're going to go in alphabetical order. So like AB, ABB, ABC. There's a lot of different ways and patterns. And then maybe, let your child see if they could come up with their own pattern to show you. We did it another week. This was kind of a quick week. I hope you guys have fun with the review. Your children do well. Don't stress if they don't. You have the assessment. Even if you need to take a day in between, you have that 5th day, so you can do the review. If your child struggles with it, then you can review some of the areas where they struggle the next day. And then on the 3rd day, you can go ahead and give them the test or the assessment. However you guys want to do this is really up to y'all. You know your children, you know what they need, what they don't need. Trust your instincts with this. Next week, we'll go over lessons 45 through 48. Until then.